Okay, so today, kids, we're gonna talk about Spider-Man. Of course, you guys know Spider-Man. No Way Home came out over the week when we watched it over the weekend. So, I'm gonna do a bit of a spoiler review, just for the extent of getting over wrestling. I can actually talk about other stuff that I'm interested in. So, of course, I love it whenever the Spider-Man films actually correlate with what happens in the other films, because of course, majority of Endgame still coherently connects what happens around the world and what affects over this what happens over the Spider-Man movies, like over the Avengers battle with the alien tech. It created an advanced technology to create, of course, the Vulture's flying gear. So that's really impactful the way it's created. A villain. They did the same thing Mysterio, and over the death, Mysterio got to get to utilize the Stark's Industries employees to pretend that he's a hero from a different world. And now we have, of course, the effects that happen to that involving the after effects, just the after effects of Spider-Man Far From Home, involving Mysterio framing a recording of thinking that Spider-Man was involved with the travesty and also revealing his identity. That was crazy as shit. I like how it immediately played an effect to how that would really happen. They didn't try to fast forward it. They really made it. They were literally like, "What the fuck?" Yep, that was actually pretty. That was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. And it comes over with mass media stalking, berating, questioning, the government coming involved. And this is coming over with Nick Fury out of the planet for about a few years now, because if we saw from Far From Home, uh, a Skrull was actually Nick Fury, and so was his agent. So we don't know where Nick Fury technically is after Endgame when he came back to life. So we don't know if there's some high top secret shit happening with Shield, because obviously Nick Fury is obviously alive after Endgame and everybody literally were coming back. So that was cool. So uh, Peter tried to adjust with trying to still go over to college, still with his romantic and his family life. They had to move to a different apartment. By the way, we got to see the lawyer. We all know lawyer Murphy. That is Daredevil. Now he's correlated into the MCU. That's nice because fuck Netflix. And of course, so he's integrated as like trying to get a lawyer for everybody here, noticing that their social lives are on the line, knowing that they possibly got to find a new spot, and people would know where they live, where the government, the media, and the people possibly really dislike Peter Parker after what Mysterio did. So now they're up in Happy's place, and Aunt May and Happy in the movie that ended up together in the second film ended up breaking up in the third. And this kind of correlates later on, as well as like with the relationship still with MJ and Peter. Even though it's an unpopular opinion, I don't like the relationship with Peter and MJ. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they have some sets of chemistry, but the whole thing that MJ is incoherent, honest. She's literally just Doctor Robot but black. That's technically it. Like highly intelligent, always cares, but like has this dissolution. Obviously, untrusting, and it kind of shows on later on when Peter tried to talk to Doctor Strange to try to get everybody to forget that he was Spider-Man. I don't know how come he didn't ask that in the end, but that's literally how he's going about it when they Peter and his friends trying to enter them up in the same college, trying to still be together in the future, still trying to etch a life for themselves out of New York and MIT, and it sadly ends with none of them going in because of recent controversy. Flash got in though, and Flash trying to capitalize off the cloud of being Spider-Man's friend, and even making a book called Flashpoint. That bullshit's gonna get you copyright, bro. DC's coming for you anytime they can get relevant over MCU. So that came into fruition later over in the story when Flash needed information. Well, technically, Peter needed information where the counselor is for the school, so we can to convince her to get her friend his friends to college after a failure to try to erase everybody and the you know change everybody's memory, technically brainwashing them just so Peter can get his friends back. And his whole narrative, I love the narrative of Peter can't control how everybody's fate is going to be, trying to help them, just the whole morality and how that always pulls over to fruition. I love the actual growing up Peter gets to do in from every movie, and that's a type of development that makes three straight movies look good. I mean, obviously, I didn't feel like Far From Home was the greatest, but we kind of get the stigma of how it was. I mean, it's still a good film. Like I can rewatch any like Spider-Man film from the MCU, but if we're looking into that, it's kind of like good. This was basically a good like storytelling borderline how Peter was going with it, and Doctor Strange, was trying grew a bit more of a respect factor for Peter, but still treating him like he's still a kid. Like you don't know how this real life shit's gonna do and how you can deal with them. Like actually talking with people up front. And the funny shit is like, wait, you got the letter, but you never thought of pleading your case so you could actually get your friends in person and actually tell them your half of the story. And then he kicked them out like he should. And by the way, Wong is now the supreme, sorcerer supreme because he wasn't out of existence. So we kind of got a bit of promotion. So that's pretty valid. That makes sense. Somebody has to be the sorcerer supreme and keep order and all this shit. So that was pretty cool. So after the spell went haywire, after Peter trying to keep everybody he knows from still knowing that he's Spider-Man, and this is integrating all with the spell, it caused a bit of a dimensional rip that could have caused the entire universe to go awry. And it was foreshadowing uh, villains coming by and stopping him. I mean, no, villains coming by from different dimensions, or like it could have caused the end of the world or some dumb shit like that because it's comic books, bro. And as soon as Peter trying to talk with one of the people from the college, it ends with Doctor Octopus coming by and jumping Peter Parker, thinking like he's the Tobey Maguire version. It's still the same actor, and they fit so well over to the film because Doc Ock is so well developed. So good back and forth, threatening to kill his girl because wrong MJ, and he's like, "What did you say?" And they start fighting with the spider claws and Doc Ock's claw. Yo, that was such a cool fight, bro. And as soon as you thought Doc Ock, after taking a piece of the Iron Spider suit, actually connected with his goddamn claws, and the nanomachines actually went in. But that actually caused Peter to, override his claws and take control and help save the college lady, and then actually reprehend Doc Ock. And then it ended with Peter, uh, Green Goblin coming over the highway from Spider-Man 1 and they get slinged back into a room where Doc Ock is now. And now the goal of the thing is get all the guys from from different dimensions back in and send them all at home before this whole universe gets split it out. And there are some. So there's Electro, Sandman, Green Goblin, and the Lizard. The whole thing that kind of left me like pretty messed pretty messed was freaking Inside Out suit that got messed up because of the green shit that happened to Peter. So he had to like turn it over inside out while washing it. It actually looks like a cool black suit. By the way, Jamie Foxx, he obviously doesn't want to play the black nerdy dude with the balding hair, acting timid as shit. So his whole thing was Jamie Foxx, but he had Electro's powers. I think that was the only shit that would make me laugh, because I remember I'm discussing with somebody that I wasn't a real fan of Jamie Foxx's Electro. He looked like a blue guy with that became a cancer patient, and he was a timid nerd that really didn't fit the persona of Jamie Foxx, because we all know Jamie Foxx. Like, that guy is, too cool to play a character like that. So now it's like his whole attitude changed since he's had the electricity powers, trying to surge off the power from the electrical poles, and Sandman's trying to stop him. So he made a sand tornado while trying to contain Electro, while Spider-Man was trying to capture more of the villains coming from different worlds, even though technically Sandman was neutral after Spider-Man 3 now, so he just thinks Peter Parker is cool, even though it was a different Peter Parker trying to help him. And they neutralize him off stopping the electrical flow, shutting him off, and zipping him to where the other villains are. So that's a Lizard and Sandman that wasn't trusting after, shooting him with one of the gauntlets that teleports him to those things that Doctor Strange gave to Spider-Man. So that was valid. So we zipped him. Zipped Sandman and Electro. And all there is now is Green Goblin. And yes, he gets the bullshit inner monologue of the Goblin side. Osborn. I just love the character out of how over the top the Green Goblin is. Bro, I don't want my rating to go up for this, all because of the nostalgia factor. I've literally watched every Spider-Man film that came out live except the first Spider-Man, because I was like, 5 years old. So the first Spider-Man movie I saw in theaters was Spider-Man 2, and I even owned all the DVDs of that, but that's somebody else in the family got them because I own Netflix. And pretty much I can watch free movies on the internet whenever I want, so it's kind of passe to own DVDs. So, yeah, that was pretty valid. And then, as soon as Norman Osborn was trying to get rid of the Goblin side of his persona, trying to take off the mask, take off the gear, he moved over to a homeless shelter because, of course, this isn't his world. Obviously, his son doesn't exist. Obviously, his house been taken over. There's no Oscorp. He's in a different world. He doesn't know what to do. So he went over to a homeless shelter. That, yes, Aunt May works over in a homeless shelter still. Trying to talk with him and obviously trying to conflict with his goblin persona, telling him to take over. You got a new world to conquer. Your rent's due on the first of the month, Parker. You don't need to wear protection. All you need is to conquer and hit that bitch roll. Oh my god, I just love it. I love the campiness of the first Spider-Man films. I just love it. It tried to correlate more with the comics while giving it a modern twist. And technically, Green Goblin, but the current MCU films, they have the best character designs for the villains than in the previous movies. I'm not gonna lie, except they kept Doc Ock the way it is. They kept Sandman more mainly Sandman, but Electro they just made him be like the cool black guy. I ain't a nerd anymore. I'm feeling electric. All I know is Electro is at least a better antagonist than Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. I'm not gonna lie, and I might get a lot of flack for that shit. But other than that, where that's enough to just pointing over to Jamie Foxx playing Jamie Foxx. But yeah, whole capture, collecting capture. Then Spider-Man heard the alert that from Aunt May that Green Goblin is actually in the homeless shelter and trying to help him, and he is actually normal, trying to convince and rehabilitate everybody that got captured, and it ends up with a conflict involving Peter and Doctor Strange after capturing everybody, including Norman Osborn, and it came into an impasse morally, trying to send them back to their time to die after knowing about their fates from different dimensions. So he came with Peter, obviously trying to stop the interest, and I like this whole compact of interest with fate and trying to actually rehabilitate. And it feels like a comic book, how the source of plot comes from different heroes, and it comes to a fight in the mirror dimension after Peter tried to take the box so he can fix this whole mess without sending them to die and actually helping them become back to normal people. And as soon as Doctor Strange towers like whole combinations, I like the surrealism of Doctor Strange, and I think we're gonna get a movie in the future involving Doctor Strange again. And Peter actually using geography to actually capitalize and manipulate the webs enough for the mirror dimension so he can actually bind up Doctor Strange and then take the sling ring. And bro, him bragging that, yo, I just totally kicked Doctor Strange's ass, bro. I did it, man. I did it. So that was impressive, clever, and how he actually got out was pretty cool. And he came up with him actually trying to rehabilitate everybody there, involving Norman Osborn and actually giving a second chance. So he tried to, while J. Jonah Jameson is actually still trying to wipe out Spider-Man's identity. So I still like how that correlates. I don't know if they're ever going to do a scene with him actually seeing himself from the Tobey Maguire films. Even though that would be entertaining, even though it's the same actor. So that would be just the basis of just mirror work and theater style, and that'd be pretty pointless. So I understand why they didn't do that. So that was cool, and I like how they correlate before involving the craziness. Still the crazy scoop and the heavy schemes to try to get more of the truth over for Peter Parker, for Spider-Man, and this possibly gonna go into another begrudged relationship like they do in the comic books and the other shows for J and J for I was about to use acronyms for J. Jonah Jameson, but I'm just gonna say Jameson from now on. So trying to rehabilitate, trying to make an anti serum for Norman, a shutdown system for the electricity for Electro, containing the lizard that said you're gonna get what you asked for, Mr. Parker, and of course trying to help, uh, you know, hearing voices for hearing the voices and corrupting Doctor Octavius. So, and by the way, when they hear like, "What's your name?" Doctor Octavius, they laugh because they know how really crazy that stupid name is. So that was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I love most of the interactions, character wise. I haven't seen great interactions like this since Civil War. I'm not gonna lie. This was good dialogue. This is better dialogue than the first two movies, and just integrating that to later in the downfall fails when the Goblin side of Norman corrupts everybody in the room, made Peter feel distrustful. Uh, Aunt May trying to stop him, and just Goblin overpowering everybody. Electro blasting Doc Ock out the room. Everything going haywire, and then everybody escaping, and everybody trying to behave like a Sinister Six nerd, trying to be like, oh my god, where's the sixth villain? Where's the sixth villain? Shut the hell up. There's enough Sony money to go along with this stupid movie. So don't be trying to complain because you want to Senator Sticks. Morbius, is he gonna be in the Spider-Man films? Where's Tombstone? Where's Tombstone? I just want to see if this correlates with the comic book. Shut up. So as soon as Peter tried to, try to manhandle Spider-Man, Goblin. He ate most of his shit. He couldn't leg lock him. He couldn't pound him into the ground. He kept withstanding it. Bro, he gave him a fucking power bomb from another floor to another. Like, bro, this was he did a spine buster on the floor to the other, bro. He was going crazy. Peter couldn't do it. He was getting overwhelmed. And then the glider came into play after Aunt May tried to defend Peter after he was on the defensive and he was down to the first floor. And then it ended with the glider coming in. You're asking for too much, Parker. You can't stop who we really are, and you can't control what can't be on control. I don't know. He was trying to spit the facts of what Peter, like, he was getting way too obnoxious with the problem that Peter has. And it came with Aunt May getting struck by the glider, bleeding to death and dying, causing the actual important death in 3 Spider-Man movies. It took 3 Spider-Man movies to actually get an important death that didn't come from Iron Man to affect Peter in the second film. And don't get me wrong, that is an important death, but it had to coincide with a movie that he was a minor character in to just give him the iron suit. I mean, yeah, it was introduced in the first film too, but come on, that's practically what Tony was there for anyway. Don't be stupid, please. So, an actual impactful death that actually came with more development, coincided with the relationship and kind of built over the character of what Peter was. Aunt May did her job. I mean, yeah, many people are gonna miss their brunette MILF that was Aunt May, because technically she was the youngest Aunt May I've seen. I don't know how in the hell you make a young Aunt May. And I know they were trying to coincide with trying to still making her an impactful mother figure. Peter is emotionally devastated, obviously wishing upon vengeance for Green Goblin. And this coincides later on with, the damage that came in. The soldiers shooting down Spider, because of course Peter Parker's still on the run from most of the police and the media, with Jameson trying to make a scoop over most of this. And then it comes with MJ and his friend trying to bring Peter back to regroup. And obviously when I was in the theater, it was like the first time when I heard, "My name is Optimus Prime." And of course, everybody fucking clapped, applauded, they were popping. And I haven't heard a pop like this since fucking everybody in the Avengers Endgame came back after Hulk brought back everybody to life. And then it's like, on your left, they treated it like Edge coming back from the Rumble or some shit. Like, that was crazy. And then we had Andrew Garfield come first. Obviously trying to prove that he is real. He's Peter, but from a different dimension. Obviously trying to showcase his power to show that he's actual Spider-Man. Trying to clean the cobwebs up, and I like how it's like, can you please clean the mess? Can you please help get that cobweb off from the ceiling? The same thing for Tobey Maguire. And the only thing they made jokes with was, wait, does your arm spit out cum webs? What the fuck? The joke that they were going with that. Because he doesn't need to make his own web shooters. He literally has them biologically coming from his powers. obviously coming from the OG Spider-Man. But obviously, that's when fans popped. They treated like John Cena coming back for WrestleMania or some shit. Like that was the craziest thing to happen over in the movie theater, and I loved it because people were excited. And Tobey Maguire looking like a youth pastor after supper with the fucking aftershave. Obviously, like had a conversation with that with a friend, being like, "Oh, he has to be the strongest Spider-Man." Well, he's the most experienced Spider-Man because he's the oldest. I do feel like people give Garfield the stigma because he's obviously the least popular Spider-Man to come out of the films, and he's the only one not to have a third film because the second one flopped so badly and was poorly acted. I feel like he's not a bad Spider-Man, but he is a bad Peter Parker because he has too much charisma to actually be like he's too much of a cool person incarnate to be like a good Spider-Man. I mean, a good Peter Parker, because Peter Parker is supposed to look timid. He's supposed to look like he's not threatening unless he puts on the mask. And yeah, he fits the talking shit. He fits the cool look. He fits the physique of Spider-Man. He's just not a good Peter Parker like Maguire and Tom Holland is, because Tom Holland is literally with a baby face, and Maguire looks like a guy you probably beat up in public a few times. So that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, after that, they tried to find Peter in the type of way where he'll feel like he's just alone, that he doesn't have to deal with the world. Find him on top of the school ceiling, trying to convince them. I remember when my Aunt May died. I remember when my MJ died. I remember when my Uncle Ben died. So, obviously, they were trying to push over the sob story, and of course, Peter tried to act like an introvert. Don't tell me how you're feeling right now. Until they all come together and they all try to make a solution to try to stop trying to cure everybody without trying to kill them, and trying to not go to that bad place like Batman does. And while trying to go with it, we got fun commentary, history over to the characters, and just some decent comedy, except the whole biological web shooting shit that, I felt like the comedy dragged way too much entirely. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was like getting dragged over way too quick. And especially they still redid the Scooby Doo this shit. Like, solve this mystery. Like, Scooby Doo this shit, kids. Obviously, because he can't talk to children, or he can't find a cooler way to say, can you fix this shit? That's about it. Benedict Cumberbatch, she's a good actor. I don't know how in the hell, like, they can't make cooler dialogue for Doctor Strange. But yeah, it was all right. They all got serums, dischargers, and trying to find a perfect place to contain all of them in one place, in the Statue of Liberty, where they put a freaking Captain America shield on top, while Spider-Man is trying to trying to get the world to give him hope and wish him luck, while in Jameson's stream where he was a guest, trying to wish him luck and trying to fix the mess he made bringing these guys here. So that was cool. It was a cool revelation, decent development. I like the conflict of interest of every character, and the kind of sus scenes where Garfield was trying to help Maguire with his back because, of course, he's old, and then still going over the web shooter and was like, "Dude, I didn't find. We both fight aliens. Garfield, who you fought? I fought a Russian dude in a rhino suit, and I fought a black guy with electric powers. That's about it. I'm not cool." He knows he's a bitch. And Maguire trying to act like a liberal teacher, like, you're amazing. I don't know where you got that from. You're awesome. You did nothing wrong. So, cool dialogue, and it ends. I know this review is straight, but this is spoiler. This is spoilers. So, Electro came in, charged in with using a core from Iron Man so to charge up his electricity so he can get that source of energy. Because coming around here saying, oh, I'm with the surge. I'm with the surge, bro. Yeah. So, and by the way, there's a good Easter egg of him having, the three sparks on his mask thing. It comes on as like an after effect of him like popping in, and he's charging all the. He's literally just electrifying all the Spider-Men in the fight. All of them colliding to fight the Lizard. Lizard coming in, getting outsmarted with the sling ring while trying to escape the fight. And Ned has it where he's like struggling to master the sling ring after bringing the Spider-Man here. He's having trouble trying to close the sling ring, and it ends up bringing up Doctor Strange later on. They contain Sandman in the Statue of Liberty where they put the charge on him. They help bring back Connors after injecting him with a whirlpool that Ned brung out. And they stopped Electro using Dr. Octavius after he thought he was going to help him with Spider-Man. So that was a cool revelation right there, stopping Electro. And then we had a dialogue before, like with the same scenes, and it was corny, but it's also a good like run back. Even though I don't care about Electro, there was better developed scenes with Sandman, even though he's the least interesting character, and especially the Lizard that I thought was like the weakest out of it, other than saying it's a new source of evolution. I didn't even know he could, and then them just joking around like I didn't even know you could speak. That's the weird part. So that was cool. And then it ends with the Goblin coming in with the cool ass hoodie. He didn't wear the mask because he broke it when he got out of the alley. But he had a brown hoodie, like a good callback using the metallic armor and a brown hoodie still having this, and with a glider, putting a bomb in the box and nearly trying to destroy it. And then we had a cool ass fight with Peter trying to get vengeance, beating the ever living piss out of him. And yeah, I was cheering for Peter. I'm not gonna lie. Tom Holland was kicking his ass. He even gave him a web slinging power bomb. That was awesome, man. That felt like the video games that I got right now, like doing freaking wrestling moves with web slinging. And as soon as he's about to get vengeance for Aunt May and trying to hit him with the glider, Maguire stops him. Garfield is trying to convince him to calm down, and ends with him stabbing Maguire. We don't know if he's dead or not. I guess it's just a fatal wound that we're not going to know anymore because he's possibly going to bleed to death when he gets back to his dimension. After most of, I don't know, like the Rhino Venom, like more people started rifting after the box that contained the bad spell was like rifted and the world was about to end. So Peter thought, what about people forget about me? People forget who I am. Instead of just saying that the wish, just say that, okay, just make everybody forget that I'm Spider-Man. No, it had to be forget who Peter Parker was to put everything back to normal. And at the end, he goes to the cafe that MJ and Ned usually are because MJ works there. Ned is usually a regular. And he trying to find them, ending with Ned and MJ going into the college. And Peter's back over alone with no Happy, no Aunt May, no girlfriend, no Fred. And he rents his own apartment. Ending with Eddie Brock, like, staying around Peter's dimension for a bit until getting rifted out, but then a piece of symbiote from Venom sticks in, so we know that possibly that's a foreshadowing for another movie, because of course we need a Spider-Man movie. Anything involving Spider-Man needs Venom in it. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but kind of a cop-in right there. But what are you expecting? Like, how's that? I don't even know if he was in Mexico or a different part of the world. My friends thought, oh, he had to be in Mexico. And it's like, no, he was in Connecticut, you racist. But that was a cool way to segment over. We got to see Eddie Brock and a drunken Venom, even though I hate Venom, like the current movies for it, even though I know people like it. I'm not a big fan of the character coinciding with that, with Eddie Brock thinking, "Oh, let me take a look on the Spider-Man," until like Venom comes around saying, "Let's go, Skinny Dippy." But yeah, good collide with the movies. Spider-Man gets a new suit. Everything is back aligned. Everything is in peace for now. And pretty much after credit scene, obviously foreshadow what's going to happen in the future Spider-Man films. I'll rate this like an 8.5 out of 10. This was a good movie, great movie of the year, best MCU film. I watched, thoroughly entertained. The dialogue was way better. The premise, I love the narrative pushing off of the film. Great storytelling. I thought there was a bit stuff that was a bit like regurgitated, like some of the humor. I still don't like MJ that much, and Ned, even though they're decent, like minor characters, and they have their pieces, like they're useful in some sets of the way. And actually, a well-established important death was pretty cool. I want to give this a 9. I don't think it was entirely perfect, but I was highly entertained and I enjoyed it. And that's all that matters at the end. I recommend for anybody that is a fan of the MCU, or even a fan that doesn't regularly is a fan of comic book movies, go ahead and watch it if you can. Everybody in the world possibly has watched it anyway, so it's kind of pointless to recommend. But if you haven't, I think you're going to regret it. But that's just me. I understand this is a longer video than expected, but this is not Monday Night Raw. So I can actually talk about a film, talk about something in depth, and actually go over the details and tell you how that actually is in my point of view without feeling so disinterested in it. So for that, that's just something new for me. Because you don't come over to the DST show for smiles. And if you're expecting that when I go back to talking about wrestling, you are sorely mistaken. But that's it for me. If you enjoyed this review, or, you know, didn't like it, of course the like and dislike button is there. Tell me how you guys felt about the film if you saw it, or if you're going to see it. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. This shit was nearly 40 minutes. That's it for me.